Okay, well, welcome everyone to this Leverage webinar relating to SAP Business One. I'm James Rodder, and what we're going to do today is go through sales orders. This is a continuation of a previous webinar where we took you through some of the features and functions around keying or creating and raising a sales order, and this is a continuation of that webinar. So today's topics, we're looking at a few areas. So the first area is just talking about options around alternative items and bill of materials such as template bombs and how they can be utilized in a sales order. From there, we'll discuss installments, prepayments and deposits. So if you're the type of organization that has varying payment terms with your customers, these could be some of the things that may apply to some situations. So I'll run through a few scenarios around that, and hopefully you'll have an understanding of how it works within SAP Business One. From that, we'll also talk about some of the options around drop shipping and back-to-back order processing. So this is where you want the demand document, such as a sales order, having a backing procurement document, such as a purchase order or production order. And there's some simple tools to use within SAP Business One to make that a very streamlined process, and it will give all the connections between the documents. So we'll run through that. Also, we'll cover things such as releasing pick lists. There's a number of ways of generating pick documents or pick slips or pick lists in SAP Business One, and what I'll show is just another option around handling that using Pick and Pack Manager. And then we'll talk about how a few methods of handling back orders as well. And after the session, we'll have the ability to have a Q&A, sorry. During the session, we'll have the Q&A panel open. So you should see that within the meeting that we're in at the moment. So if you've got any questions, just log the questions in there and we'll get back to you with our response. Some questions may be very site specific, so we would need to understand the context of the question. So it'd be important just to put your question in and make sure your name's there and I guess the company, so we just have an understanding of how that question fits within your particular setup. All right, so from here we'll go into SAP Business One, which we have open here. So this is, I'm going to run through sales orders with the assumption that everyone's seen the first part of this particular webinar, the methods of creating a sales order and some of the options when filling in the content of the sales order. So what I'll do is raise a new sales order from my Common Functions widget. And then we have the sales order screen open. Just like always, you'll have to key in the customer first. So I've got a customer on the phone. Let's pretend I've got a customer on the phone from Yakadu Partners. And I have Rachel on the line. And what Rachel would like to order is a Swift road bike. So what I can do is go into the content of the order, type in Swift, and she would like a quantity of 20 of those road bikes. So from there, I can confirm to Rachel that their current price is $1,933. And I can also confirm the availability. So on the right-hand side, I can see that we have currently only 10 on hand, of which we have 8 already committed. So we only really have 2 available. So I'll relay that back to Rachel, and then she might say, well, are there other warehouses that have stock on hand? And what I can do is to answer that is drill into, or put my cursor into the warehouse field and do a control tab. And this will give me an overview of the stock status across all the warehouses. So I can see that our Brisbane warehouse has 6. Our distribution center only has 12, and our Melbourne warehouse has 4, and then again we've only got the 2 in Sydney. So obviously the order is for 20, and not a single warehouse could supply that demand unless we obviously procured it from several warehouses, but that might not be cost effective. So we'll back out of that. The next option might be to either upsell or downsell the option around a Swift road bike. So what we have set up in the system is a list of alternative items to the Swift road bike. And then I can go into that from the sales order screen by taking my cursor and putting into the item number field, and then again doing a control tab. So then this opens up what we call the alternative items selection criteria screen. And what I see are all the items, prices, and stock status of all the alternatives. So I see that I've got 8 alternatives to the Swift road bike, the Elite road bike, the Venom road bike, so on and so forth. I see the pricing for that particular pricing, so I can relay that back to Rachel saying, well, here are the alternatives. We've got what we have on hand and what we have in stock. So what's available and what's in stock. We've also got things like match factors. So obviously some products aren't going to be identical, so we just need some easy method to understand if how these items match up to one another. So I see that most of the products are a downsell because the match factor is below 100. And then I have the option to do additional factoring, and that comes to configuration. So there's a number of ways we can configure the alternative item screen around the organization to help with this type of engagement that you may have with your customer. So if I want to substitute the Swift road bike for one of these alternatives, I can just highlight the item just on the side there and then go choose. But then I see that I've only got 10 available of each. Rachel wants 20, so this is no good. So I'll cancel out of that, and I'll have to start discussing with Rachel, well, we'll have to produce these road bikes for you. The way that I can tell that it's being produced is that I've got the BOM type column exposed, and I can see that we actually produce or manufacture this particular item. So a production order would need to be released. So we'll go through that shortly. I want to just complete the sales order, so I've got the commitment in the system. So I'll just confirm the delivery date. A way of determining that is hovering over the item, and then I can see that what the typical lead time, so down the, I'll hover over that again. Towards the bottom, I can see that there's a lead time of 3 days. So I can then go to this particular delivery date and obviously add the 3 days, which is the 25th. And then that's our delivery date, expected delivery date that I can discuss to Rachel. Obviously, Rachel might want a discount and those sort of things. Obviously, we can do that. So I'll say, okay, well, since we don't have the stock on hand, I'll give you the 20 items, the 20 road bikes at 35 grand. The system will automatically backwards calculate the discount. So I've got the net amount of 35 grand. If she still wants a bit more, what we can do is probably add a few extra items. And what we can do there is that I've got an item set up called the starter pack, which is a template BOM. Now a template BOM just allows me to type in a single, I guess, listing or a single value, and that will return multiple items just like a bill of material should. So I can type in starter, and then I see that I have the new bike starter pack that I can then add to the sales order. So that then gets added. I can then say to Rachel, oh, well, you know, since you're such a great customer, we'll give these for you for free. So I can go into the discount column and change that to 100%. So the content of the order has now been entered, but then there's things that could be in place. So in order to secure the order to be produced, so since an order had to be manufactured, you know, the road bikes have to be manufactured, I might need to secure a deposit before we actually go out to the workshop and start producing those road bikes. So what the next step could be, I'll add this sales order. So again, it's in the system. But the next step is to go back to your main menu. So this is around determining the deposit required for this particular order. Going to sales orders, and then we have the option here for AR down payment request, which is similar to a payment in advance or a deposit on an order. So this is a bit different from a typical Business One workflow where you do a copy to, so a sales order copy to delivery, delivery copy to AR invoice. What we have to do here is actually go into the AR down payment request and do a copy from. So how is this all done? What I do is go into the AR down payment request, type in the customer, Yakido, partners, that gets keyed in, and then down the bottom right, you'll see that the copy from option activates. And what I want to do is then do a copy from a sales order. So at the moment, I've only got the one sales order for Yakido, so this is nice and straightforward. So I can select that, so highlight and then go choose. It comes up with a wizard. This is around determining exchange rates, if you want to use the document exchange rate or the current system exchange rate. For this is all local currency, so I can just go finish. And what that will do is draw the full content of that sales order into the screen. But what we're trying to do here is just determine the down payment amount. So the content's through, but what's important in this particular screen is this value here, the down payment values. So I can determine either a net figure or a percentage amount. And our business rules that we need to secure 20% of the order to then release this to our production floor. So 20%, so that ends up to being $7,700. I then go add, and then I can then email this particular document to the customer, either a crystal layout or what we call a PLD can be sent in that will firm up what is required with the customer, with Yakido, what the value of the deposit needs to be. So even though this document is called an AR, so accounts receivable down payment request, if I drill into the particular customer, it doesn't alter the account balance. It doesn't actually become an AR document until you receive payment of the $7,700. So if I drill into that, so it's zero at the moment, I'll drill through to the account balance and you'll see nothing in the account balance window at all. So the next step would be to to receive the payment, to then obviously the deposit's secured to then release to the production floor. So for those who are familiar with the banking module, this is no different from what you're probably familiar with. I'll go into banking, incoming payments, and then incoming payments again. I type in Yakido, and then I see the down payment document here for $7,700. So even though it didn't appear in the account AR summary or account balance behind Yakido, it's here to put an incoming payment against. So just like any other AR document, I can then highlight the selection. So obviously they've paid us, it's appeared on our bank statement. I can process this. It's going against our trading account for the full balance. I then go okay, and then I add that. So that's a payment that we've received against that down payment document. So if I follow this workflow, if I go to the relationship map now, I can see this overall flow. So, if you follow these particular workflows, it starts telling a story. So I created a sales order, a down payment request was created for $7,700, and now I've received the incoming payment. So that's the trigger point to go back into the sales order and create the production order for the 20 road bikes. So I've drilled back into the sales order, and what we have available here is an option called Allow Procurement Document, and it's just a tick box. And what that does is run through when I select this, and then go update, it runs through a wizard to confirm how we are going to supply this demand. And it's going to be a production order because I can see it's a production bomb. So I've ticked the procurement document option. I then have gone, I'll go update. And what then appears is the procurement confirmation wizard. So this is a step-by-step process to confirm what kind of procurement document I need to supply that particular sales order. So the wizard is fairly straightforward. Most of them is just a next, 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 but we'll go through them. So the first step is just confirming the document type and customer, which is already determined because I've come from the sales order. So I can go next. This is just a listing of all the documents that we want to define in the procurement document. And again, it's just the one because we've gone from the sales order. And then from here, we are confirming what type of document we want to create. So I see that I have the base document of the sales order, the item of the Swift road bike, and then I've got the quantity of 20. On the top of the screen, I can see that I want to create a production order. There are other options of creating a purchase order, purchase request, purchase quotation, and a purchase request. But for this particular scenario, I'm just going to create a production order. So I can go next. So this is all correct. I can then go next. Consolidation options are available. A final preview of what the wizard is going to do as a result of the parameters I've defined. I go next, and then I can see that the production order has been created. So what I see here is a production order number 40600 has been created. I can then drill into that using the golden arrows, and I can see the production order as a result of that sales order. So we're seeing the bill of materials to produce the road bike, a frame, forks, saddle, etc. But then I see the connection to the sales order. So I see sales order as the origin, what the sales order number is, the customer, and then I see some financial information there as well. But again, if I go back to the relationship map, the story continues. So not only have I got a sales order to a production order, I can see just another link in the chain in order to supply the particular customer. All right, so for those organizations that have production orders, that use production orders, the next step could be to release this to the floor. And in order to start producing this, you might need to then go to the stores or the warehouse to pick the materials to produce the road bike. Now, an option is available on production orders to do a simple right click and generate pick list. And the system will go away and quickly determine what the pick list should be. So this opens up the pick and pack manager. And this quickly runs through to see what we have available and what we don't. So I can see that we have plenty of frames and forks and saddles available. So when I look at the right-hand column, I see the fulfillment percentage, and some of them are 100. I also see that only 30 of the 40 required road tires are available. So obviously purchasing or additional production orders will need to be released to fulfill that demand from the production order now. So this will then just tie into everything. So this is a handy tool to not just print off the production order and use that as a pick ticket. This allows you to actually determine, what you have available and release it to the floor when you have the stock available. So that's available against a production order. If I go back to the sales order that created all of this, so I can go to the production order and then hit the sales order. So that will take me back to this particular screen, the sales order screen. I can then right click that and have that same option to generate pick list. It will go through and then determine if I've got sufficient quantity on hand. And again, it's found that I don't have sufficient quantity of the road bike, but that's fine. I'm not expecting because I'm producing the road bike, but if the customer, if we want to send out the the starter pack prior to dispatching the road bikes, we can definitely do that by just not selecting that as an option. So I'm selecting the chain lock, the Allen key set, and the blue helmet, and the new starter pack. I can then just go down the bottom right and then release to pick list down the bottom right. And that runs through a wizard. I won't go through that completely because there's a whole lot of options around bin locations and whatnot, but this is the starting of the next step from the sales order. So starting looking at the supply chain and dispatching the actual order itself. All right. So that was a run through of raising an order, looking at things like alternative items, template bombs, also drilling into down payment requests, which can be a very important option for those that do require deposits on some of their orders. And just how the relationships get built over time if you use some of the workflows within SAP Business One. So the next scenario I want to go through is very similar. Instead of raising a production order, I'll just go through raising a purchase order from a sales order. So I'm in the sales order screen and then I'll just go add. This time MyCat has contacted us, MyCat Industries, and what they would like is some furniture, outdoor furniture. So I'll type in outdoor furniture. That comes through, and then they want 15 of those. All right, so same process again that I can have with Michael from MyCat. I can say that we've only got 13 on hand. I can check the stock availability of other warehouses. I can then look at alternative items. If I go through that process again and it ends up being the same situation that we'll have to procure the products, the outdoor furniture, I can then run this Procurement Wizard. So I speak to Michael, and I guess the outdoor furniture is quite large, and we've decided that rather than go via our own warehouse, we'll go straight from the supplier to the customer. So that's a drop ship arrangement. So in order to define that within the sales order, what you can do is set up a warehouse in the system called dropship. So if I click on that, I've got a warehouse already set up here called dropship. So there's a bit of configuration involved, not too much, but ultimately this warehouse is just a virtual warehouse to determine that this is a dropship workflow. So when I select dropship, the system automatically understands that and it ticks the procurement, allow procurement document flag straight away. So it understands that this is going to have a back-to-back purchase order or sales order to purchase order. So with this particular process, obviously it's being dispatched directly to the customer. We'll definitely have to confirm the shipping address. So we'll have the shipping information here. So it's going to Moore Park in New South Wales. The other thing we might need to have around dropship is an installment plan. Installments aren't very typical, but SAP Business One can certainly help handle it. So the default payment terms for MyCat is 20 days end of month, but I've got another payment term here for 4 equal installments. So I've selected that, and obviously we've spoken to Michael and MyCat to say, hey, we're expecting 4 installments of this particular sales order for the 30 grand, for the $33,000, and that's all fine. So I'll complete the sales order. So obviously I can type in more product. I can then obviously hover over the item. Okay, so this is a 5-day lead time. So I can go to the 27th for this particular outdoor furniture. And then I'll go add. And then just like we had previously, it opens up the procurement confirmation wizard. I'll go, and it's the same options because I've done pretty much the same thing. I've gone next. But I guess the key thing here now is rather than a production order, the system's determined it's a purchase order. So I've got that defined. The system automatically knows which supplier I generally get this from. So that's Soda Cola. If I click on the option here, I have the ability to alter that if necessary. If I find that there's another supplier that can deliver the outdoor furniture set. So I then go next. Consolidation options again are available. It then confirms the content of what it's going to do under this preview results step. And then I go finish. So just like before, it confirms that it's created a procurement document, this time a purchase order. I can drill into that purchase order from here. And all what you'd expect regarding a purchase order, but I guess the key thing here, it's going against that drop ship warehouse. So bypassing any of our own warehouses and going straight to the customer. Under logistics, it's got what we see MyCat industry. So when we send this purchase order to the supplier, they'll see that the delivery point is MyCat, not one of our own warehouses. So very clean process. If you use that procurement document step and run through that wizard, all the information gets passed through, and then we send the supplier and they have the information to do the drop ship workflow. So I can go okay on that, and I'll go back to our sales order now. Close a few screens down and go back to the MyCat sales order. Now, just to finish up on the installments that I've set up here, when I convert this to an AR invoice, what the system will do is split the balance 4 ways. So I can't convert this to an AR invoice because we don't have sufficient stock on hand. But what I can do is post a reserve invoice. So this is a document that allows me to process the AR invoice, but prior to any goods being dispatched. So all the content gets copied across from the sales order. I'll go into the accounting tab. And what the system has done is understand that there's 4 installments here. So I can click on the 4 installments and see what the system's determined. So we've got a 25% spread, like 4 lots of 25%, which ends up being $8,400. And then we say that there is they're due month after month. So today's the 22nd. The first payment's expected on the 22nd of December, 22nd of Jan, Feb, and then March. So the system will then spread it accordingly. So if I go okay on that and post the AR reserve invoice, the system is smart enough to spread those balances accordingly. So it's not just a case of just splitting it up for the AR reserve invoice. The AR side needs to reflect that as well. So I'm in the account balances screen and I see the 4 entries with the different due dates. So when you run your statements or your age balances, it will break it down correctly based on that installment plan we have all here. All right, so those are the 2 workflows. Another thing I would like to cover just quickly is handling back orders. So I'm just going to close a few screens down and go back to the main menu. So there's obviously a suite of standard reports in the system. So under Sales AR, Sales Reports, we have standard reports, and there's a backorder report available under Sales Reports. So when I open that, this allows me to quickly oversee what orders are on backorder. So a lot of there's a few parameters available for this report: delivery date, customer code, and then we have the warehouses down the bottom. But generally, you want to then you key in the delivery date, so everything that should have been delivered prior to today. So I'll put in the 22nd. I will select the warehouses I want to report on, and then I go okay. So this gives me a listing of all the items and sales orders that are in the system. I see what amounts or quantities are on the order and what's on back order, and then I can cross-check it, that against the in-stock quantity. So this is a good tool to quickly run your eye and say, oh, well, we can dispatch that, we can't dispatch this, because I'm comparing the ordered quantity and the in-stock quantity holistically. So this is a good way of just seeing the overall status around back orders across all sales orders in the system. So that's one option. The other option, which I've already touched on already, is the Pick and Pack Manager, which is a very good tool around dispatch. So under the inventory module, I have the Pick and Pack module, and then I have the Pick and Pack Manager. And again, we have a range of parameters available. So I only want to see open documents and sales orders and production orders and everything like that. So you would define this in accordance to what you would like to oversee and start dispatching. But if I go OK on this, what this does is then looks at the whole order and then tells me the total fulfillment percentage of that order. So if you've got rules that there are, you only dispatch full quantities, like full orders at a time to reduce freight costs, this is a good tool to quickly oversee, well, what orders can be 100% fulfilled. So I see here that the first order on this listing, I can't fully dispatch. It's only 69% because I can dispatch the 2-door pantry, but I can't dispatch the signature BMX bike at this point. So based on our rules, we might not want to dispatch that. But the second order for Twitter Bridge, I can see that the items here, I see the open and I see what we have available to release. So I can then tick that and then do the release pick list wizard again. So this can be part of the workflow, but it also can be just a reporting tool to quickly see back orders and releasing the orders that can be dispatched. So if you're not using it at the moment, take a look at it and see how it can work for your organization. All right, so that's the content that we want to cover today. If you have any questions, if you've been logging questions through the webinar, we'll be responding to them. But if you have any other questions as a result, the session's being recorded. We'll be posting this on YouTube shortly. So if you want to review it or give it, send it to some of your colleagues, that will be possibly a good option. But if you've got any questions about prepayments, procurement wizards or anything like that, email me and I'll get back to you. Alternatively, we have the 1300 number and the support email as well. All right, so we'll finish up there. So hopefully you found that useful, something to go away with and see how that applies to your organization. And yeah. All right, so I hope you guys enjoy your Wednesday and yeah, thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to learn new smart ways to grow your business. You can also check out our blog and follow us on Twitter to learn more and stay up to date. Thanks for watching and see you next time.